Hello and welcome to the garden. My name is Lindsay and this is our week 1 full garden tour for 2021. I'm so excited to show you what's going on out here in my garden. There's both a lot and also not a lot. So I'm going to take you through my whole space, show you everything I have, and tell you like what variety it is. I do upload these weekly. For those of you who are new here, welcome. I do upload these weekly. I also have playlists on my channel of the last 2 years of full garden tours if you want to go back in time and check out what the garden looks like in its full lush glory. So without further ado, let's get started on this week 1 full garden tour. So back here by the gate, up at the front of the garden, I did actually plant some bulb companion flower seeds here a couple days ago. Obviously they have not come up yet because I just planted them a couple days ago. This is a massive lavender bush. I need to prune this back a little bit on this side. I haven't done that yet because this area right here is going to be where my peppers go this year. So if you were here last year, you remember the peppers were actually over there, but I decided to move them over here this year because this is a bigger space and I can do more plants in this area. So it still needs to be cleaned out of weeds and have some compost put down and some cardboard, but other than that, this is where the peppers are going. So if I kind of pivot over this way, this is the cattle panel arch trellis. This is a hosta that I just kind of stuck in here last year, and then I do have a row of some little sunflowers in here. Now these are Sunspot and the teddy bear sunflowers. They go down the side of this panel. So these do not get huge. I grew the teddy bears last year and they get about 4 feet tall. So I'm pretty stoked to see what this looks like in just a few short months. So if we head down here a little bit, this is my Dollar Tree stackable planter that I have flowers planted in this year. And I have a few different things in here. I have some nasturtiums in here. I have a few different types of petunias. I don't know what's what necessarily, but I have the Laura Bush blend, I have double cascade, and then I have shockwave coconut. So I have these kind of interspersed around here. I also have some kabloom light pink calabroca, which is what these things are. Another nasturtium down there, and then in the empty spots I'm gonna plug in some celosia and some petite like dwarf marigolds. So this is going to be all flowers this year. I'm so excited to see what this looks like once everything is in bloom. This nasturtium is doing really well up here. He's nice and happy. I love these little leaves. This is actually the first year I've ever grown nasturtium, so I am very excited to see how this does. Alright, so let's go into the arch trellis first. On this side of this trellis we have cucumbers, 4 different varieties, and then on this side I have some pole beans and then some peas, and then that is a tub full of lettuce and such. So I don't have everything not everything has come up yet, but this is where the muncher cucumber is going to be. I do have a couple seedlings on my green dragon burpless cucumber. So I actually planted 2 of these right next to each other with the plan to thin one of them when they get a little bit bigger to see which plant is stronger. And then I have the straight 8 cucumber. I have one of those coming up. And the Chinese snake cucumber has not come up yet. So in this tub is funny because this tub I actually planted this lettuce in here last fall, and I didn't really get to harvest off of it at all, and so it just stayed out here all winter, and then this spring it just kind of came back to life. So I have some nice healthy lettuce here, and this is actually a Mexican red torch sunflower. These I have never grown before, but I have heard that they kind of like bush out a little bit. So I'm hoping that it'll kind of take over half of this bucket and look really nice. Over here on this side of this one panel, I do have some peas. These are the Mammoth Melting Snow Peas. They're not doing super great. I don't know what the deal is here. They don't want to climb for some reason, and I don't know what their deal is. I keep coming out here and kind of like training them to go around the trellis, but they don't want to, so that's fun. And then here are my pole beans. So on this half right here, these are the purple potted pole beans, and you can see like if you look at this plant right here, it has a little bit of a purple tinge to it around here. And then compare it to down here, these are the Rattlesnake pole beans, and see, these are just totally green. So these are all pole beans. I actually planted both of these varieties last year, but I flip-flopped where they were this year, so I just switched them. So I'm super excited about these. These actually all came up basically on the same day, so that was exciting. I came out one evening and there was just all these little beans. So I love when that happens. Now if I pivot back around here, I do have this one black like decorative trellis panel right here. This has sugar magnolia tendril peas on it. And I had more peas at one time, but something happened to this one. So I just have a few right now, but these plants are actually, like this one in particular is doing really well. This plant is gorgeous. It has all these little tendrils that come out as it climbs, and it's growing really well. I haven't been super impressed with my peas so far this year, so I don't know. We'll see what happens, I guess. And then back here in this area, I actually direct sowed some sunflower seeds. So I did the Velvet Queen sunflower and then an Italian white sunflower. I actually sowed like 4 or 5 of each seed, and I will just thin them as they come up. I think that would look really nice in this area, this open space right here, to form kind of like a little privacy wall type situation. So let's turn this way, and we'll go in this middle area right now. This is where, this is kind of a random area. I have some tennis ball lettuce right here, and these are just little lettuce heads, and you can see they're kind of starting to form little heads. These are very tiny little gem lettuce seedlings, and all of this stuff I actually winter sowed. These I just planted a few days ago, so they are still very tiny. I don't know if they're gonna do well at all with them being so close together like this, but I was too lazy to separate them all out, so that's how I did that. This right here is an early girl tomato plant that I actually bought. This is a determinate plant. I bought this solely so I can use it for a future YouTube video all about tomatoes. I did not grow any determinates this year, so I had to buy one, which is fine. And then back here in the back half of this little area, I have a bunch of kale. I have some blue curled scotch and some narrow Toscana. That one's starting to look really good. Some of them are still a little puny. I probably will end up thinning them a little bit more because I know that they probably are a little close together still, but they are looking much better. They were very tiny when I put them in this area, so I'm pretty happy with how they look so far. The garden right now is kind of a mess, but here's my strawberry patch. It is absolutely loaded with blossoms and little tiny baby fruit, which is very exciting. I am hopefully going to be inundated with berries in the next month or so. Now this is my tomato area. All of this around here is where I plant my tomatoes. I plant them up cattle panel and they go all the way around. So let's start over here. This is the only one that's planted over here. This is a sun sugar. I also bought this plant and it's doing pretty well so far. This is just a yellow cherry tomato. So my plan for my tomatoes this year, I'm doing all cherries on this part down to that corner of this panel. So I'll have 4 cherry tomato plants, and then the rest of this panel all the way around here, I'll have everything else. So I'm planting 16 tomato plants this year on this cattle panel area back here. This is made of 2 16-foot cattle panels that we just folded, or not folded, that we bent into a 90-degree angle in the corners and then secured it in the middle back here onto a T-post. So I'm doing 16 plants on these panels plus the one down here in the ground, so 17 plants total for this year. Last year I had like 23 and it was just too much. I think I had everything a little bit too close together on these panels, so I'm gonna work on spacing for this year and make sure everything is nice and happy. So I talked a little bit about the varieties I'm planting in the what I'm planting in 2021 video, and I'll put a link to that down below if you haven't caught that. I'm not gonna go through every tomato I'm planting out here right now because I don't remember all of them. But once they're in the ground, then we will surely go through them every week during the garden tour. So that is basically the garden, the main garden right now. Now I do have an area over there that we're gonna go check out right now, but that is the main in-ground garden. That's what I'm growing this year. So let's go check out this other area. So this is my new gardening space for 2021. I have these 3 Keter raised beds over here with some other pots and tubs. So in this tub right here, I actually have a chive plant that came back from last year. I think this is a parsley. I planted some parsley seeds. That might be it, I don't know. This is another one of those Mexican red torch sunflowers. That's a lid, ignore that. And this is a variegated basil that I bought. I didn't need it, but like, look at it, you know? And it is called Pesto, it's called that, Pesto Perpetuo or something like that. It smells so heavenly and it's just so cute. It has this little variegated leaves, so I had to get it. In that pot I just have a couple petunias that I had left over. And then up here, this is my salad bowl bed. This is a bunch of Matador spinach that I winter sowed and transplanted out, and it is absolutely, like, look at this. This is so lush. I need to come out here and pick a salad today. This is some mesclun mix that I also winter sowed and then just kind of separated in clumps and put in here, and it is absolutely taking off. And then down here is some arugula that I have direct sown in this bed. So it is really starting to come into it now. I think in the next like week or two, I will be eating some arugula. And then in this bed, I have some onions. I'm not sure what variety they are, to be honest, but they are onions. And then I also sowed some sparkler white tip radishes in between my onions, all in this little bed. And then down here, this has strawberries in it. So this, I actually pulled a bunch of runners from my other strawberry patch and put them over here. The plan was to move all of the strawberries, but I didn't realize how many I actually had. So, yeah. But there's a bunch of little tiny berries in here and also some weeds, but it's okay. I'm super excited to see how many berries I end up with off this patch right here. I am gonna let this send out as many runners as at once and kind of fill this in a little bit, but for now I'm just gonna let it do whatever it wants. If it wants to make berries, I'm gonna let it. And then down here I have some cilantro in a pot that I also winter sowed, and this is a rosemary. And this is a rosemary. I winter sowed that. This is the first time I've ever gotten rosemary to germinate. But I did buy one because I didn't know if that little one was gonna make it. So I did buy one. This one is actually, this is such a random, so I had never heard of this type before. It's called barbecue. It is hardy in zone 6, which is where I am, so hopefully this lives. But yes, I have my rosemary in a pot down here so I can put it in the garage in the winter time. And then in this hanging pot over here, I have some little thyme seedlings. So that concludes our week 1 full garden tour. I am steadily harvesting lettuce. I am eating full salads for lunch every day from what I'm cutting from my backyard, which I absolutely adore. And hopefully all the tomatoes are going in this week. I took Friday off to plant the garden, but I'm looking at the forecast and I'm seeing it may get down to like 38 Friday night. So I don't know. I just don't know. I do have a ton of other stuff I need to do in the garden though, so even if the tomatoes don't get planted Friday, the ground will be ready for them when they do get planted. So that's gonna about do it for week 1. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you in the next one.